Our story today starts with a girl, and her name was Alice. Our story also ends with a girl, the same girl to be precise. But we want to go forwards, not back, so we should really start at the beginning and not from the end. The story starts off normally enough, with Alice playing next to the river with Dinah, her cat, as her sister was reading to them. But the appearance of a white rabbit in a waistcoat gives this particular story a turn for the interesting and most curious. Without hesitation, Alice followed this curious creature down a rabbit hole, and that's when our story becomes a bit remarkable. Now, I'm not certain how much you know about rabbit holes, but this is about Alice, not you. And although Alice knew she didn't have the most extensive knowledge on rabbit holes, she was quite certain they generally didn't have wallpapered walls. In fact, she could say with confidence that there had never been a wallpapered rabbit hole before that she knew of. So, it was on this occasion that her attention was drawn to the walls of this particular rabbit hole, and was intrigued at the wallpaper covering them. Alice could never say for how long she fell. Either the hole was very deep, or she fell very slowly. One thing for certain is that when the fall was finally over, the well-dressed white rabbit disappearing through some trees was the only thing she recognised. This isn't to say she never came across other characters of this curious world. There were the twin boys for starters, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, the story of the curious oysters, speaking on matters of shoes and ships and sealing wax, and cabbages and kings. The contestants of the caucus race, in a sort of circle where the shape doesn't matter. An impertinent blue caterpillar that smoked far too much in Alice's opinion, if you were to ask her, not that he knew who she was, as he kept asking, "Who are you?" And a cat called Cheshire, who wasn't all there, even if you could see all of him and not just his grin for once, even though Alice was quite sure of herself that she'd never thought a cat could grin. Before long, or shortly after, however you may look at it, Alice came across a small gate with the most curious sounds coming from behind it, or in fact in front of it if you happened to be on the other side of the gate. But Alice was not. She was on this side, and so proceeded to push it open. A chorus of an unusual song, talking of unbirthdays, greeted her ears as she saw a March Hare, a hatter, and a small dormouse stuffed in a teapot sitting up for tea at a long table. No room in a table set out for far more than three, riddles with no answers, and an abundance of no tea at the tea party. Twinkle, twinkle, little bat, it didn't take long for Alice to get sick of that. Soon, a maze met Alice, or Alice ran into a maze, whichever pleases you more. And once more, she saw a most astonishing sight. There, right in front of her, were a group of playing cards that were men. That is to say, they were people with a head, 2 arms and 2 legs, but with playing cards for their body. Truly though, the most astonishing fact was not that they were living inanimate objects, but they were painting white roses red. Alice could not for a moment wrap her head around understanding why they would do such a thing. Unfortunately for her, 'twas not long before she met the reason behind this absurd act. The Queen of Hearts, a vicious ruler who seemed charmed with Alice's unexpected and peculiar presence in the beginning, quickly turned on the poor innocent child who had done no wrong whatsoever. Accused of stealing the Queen's tarts and on trial, in royal court no less. Finally, Alice had had enough. The Queen's own screams of "Ah! With their head!" were drowned out by dear Alice's own exclamation due to her utter frustration with this nonsensical place. Cries of shock were heard all around, but Alice only paid attention to the fact of a mysterious purple gas as it erupted, swirling all around her. The last things Alice noted from this place were the faces of the many different characters she had met along the way in this strange, curious world of fantastical things. Slowly, she opened her eyes and found herself lying next to the river, her sweet Dinah curled up at her side, her sister's dependable voice still going strong. The world she left behind, a mere flight of the imagination, only to be dreamt up in these happy childhood summer days. And so, we started from the beginning, and we are now at the end. And that was the story of a girl named Alice and her adventures in a place called Wonderland.